Hello, everyone, and welcome to Healthy One Bite at a Time with Native Food and Plants. I am happy to inform you that we have some incredible speakers today. Go ahead and switch the slide, Bianca. This is AIANTA's mission to define, introduce, grow, and sustain American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian tourism that honors traditions and values. Welcome to One Healthy Bite at a Time, Native Food and Plants. This webinar is brought to you with generous funding from the Native American Agricultural Fund, NAF. We are happy to have you here, and I am Kelli Hepler. I am the Agritourism Specialist for AIANTA. For those of you who are not familiar with AIANTA, for nearly 2 decades, AIANTA has served as the national voice for American Indian nations and Native Hawaiians engaged in cultural tourism. In addition to serving as the voice for Indian country tourism, AIANTA provides technical assistance and training to tribal nations and Native-owned enterprises engaged in cultural tourism and hospitality and recreation. I am thrilled to introduce you to 3 experts who will share approaches to introducing native foods to farm visitors using health as a strategy. Eating your way to a healthier body and mind can be achieved. Studies show that the food's nutrient density is higher when produced and harvested at a peak ripened condition. Once the food is picked, its sugars become starch and the nutrients diminishes in value. Let's hear from our expert guests, presenters, about getting healthy one bite at a time. How can you integrate this information into your agritourism enterprise? They're going to tell you. And finally, you will be given links to free resources available from AIANTA's agritourism and culinary research on their website. Download the tools to help you build your own agritourism business and refine your products for your best benefit. We are pleased to have these experts join us today. Okay, look at these wonderful people. These are some amazing women who are doing really great things all across the country. On the far left, you will see Tiana Sauzo, BA, is an executive director at the Red Willow Center in Taos Pueblo, New Mexico. The mission of the Red Willow Center is to reclaim the agricultural heritage of Taos Pueblo and restore its traditional food systems. With the help of her team, Sauzo is able to work towards accomplishing this mission through the Red Willow Farms Farmers Market, the youth internship, and other programs. Sauzo, a graduate from Santa Fe Indian School and Fort Lewis College in Durango. Yay, I live right near there. It's a great college. Serves on the board of the Ogallala Commons in Nazareth, Texas, and is an active member in her community of Taos Pueblo, Ogallala. Then we have Chef Walks First. Jessica Pamonicut is Chicago's first Native American executive chef. Before its closure, She attended the Le Cordon Bleu, sorry, my French isn't so great, Culinary of Arts in Chicago, but her earliest culinary education comes from cooking with her mother. Thank you, Chef Jessica's mother. My mother did not cook with me. She wasn't very good at it. For Native people, cooking and sharing meals and food itself is part of everything we do, Locke's first said. When you grow up in a communal setting, there are many events, and anytime we go to these events, I would help in the kitchen. It's always been second nature to me. Chef Jessica has been featured in a number of recent articles, and as with the other two, she just is in the spotlight on a regular basis. She is part of the Seed to Feed initiative, teaching community members how to identify, harvest, grow, and cook indigenous foods, and is a great way to restore our food systems. We currently have 3 small garden spaces in Chicagoland area, but that is not enough. And she's right, it's not enough. A community-owned and operated farm garden space where we could grow and feed the community would be a dream come true, and I know it will happen someday soon. Okay, next on my list is Spring, Alaska. And Spring, please say your name. I looked for it all over the place and I can't pronounce it.
It's Yupingsarak. It means time when the ice breaks. It's Inupiaq.
Thank you. See, she did it much better than I did. She is the owner and principal ecologist, indigenous agriculturalist of Sakari Farms. She is an enrolled member and a shareholder of the Chugach, I may have pronounced that incorrectly too, Chugach Alaska Native Corporation and a Valdez Native tribe. Inupiaq lineage allows I'm sorry, I screwed that up, guys. That's her lineage is Inupiaq and allows a unique, diverse cultural perspective of the use of historical food systems ranging from Alaska to Oregon and regional tribal lands on Turtle Island. Spring serves on multiple regional and national agricultural boards and educational committees, and advocates for local farmers and tribal members. Spring received the 2019 NASDAQ Woman Farm to Food Award, and more recently, the recipient of the 2021 Nahali Tribal Fellowship and the 2022 EcoTrust Indigenous Leadership Award for the PMW. I'm going to let these women tell you about what they do, and we're going to start with Tiana, and I'm excited to let you go. Okay, thank you. Now we're going to hear from Tiana.
Yeah, thank you, Kelly. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tiana Suazo. As Kelly said, I'm the executive director here at Red Willow Center in Taos Pueblo. We are a 501c3 nonprofit with a focus on education and agriculture. So as she stated, this is our mission to reclaim the agricultural heritage of Taos Pueblo and to restore its traditional food systems. So what does that mean? Do I say next, or do I have control over the next slide? What's my cue?
You can say next. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. So yeah, what does that mean to reclaim? We really just want to continue our traditional agricultural practices and just relearn them and teach them to our youth and other community members. And through that, we try and do a lot of intergenerational learning from elders and community members, bringing them into our farm to talk to our young people and restore. So to us, that means just assisting in strengthening food sovereignty efforts in Taos Pueblo, just helping out with what's already taking place here, continuing food preservation and seed saving as we've done in the past and for many, many, many generations, and learning the importance of a secure food system. In my work, I've just heard from many elders in my community how strong our food system was in the past. I'm hearing that we've had like 7 years of food stored, just for any event. And so I am really looking into and learning from elders and really trying to bring that information to my community and to our youth of what that looked like and how we can get back to that strong food system that we once had. And so we do this through our what I call 3 pillars of Red Willow, and that's our farm where we grow the food, our farmers market where we really distribute all of our food, and our youth program where we share our knowledge of food and really learn from each other. So yeah, thank you. Next. So this is just a little information about the farm. And excuse me, I'm recovering from a cough, so sound a little crazy here and there. And just to give you a little background, this farm has been around for about 20 or so years. However, I came into the directorship in 2019, so just been doing this for a little over 3 years. The organization itself really needed a lot of help. It wasn't growing as much food as it could in the space that it had. So we found that we really have about 1.75 acres of outdoor field space. The farm itself has 3 greenhouses. They're roughly 80 to 100 feet. 2 of which are heated by a district heating unit called a garn. So that really helps us extend our season well into the winter or get an early start in the spring, which is really needed in Taos because our growing season is roughly 2 to 3 months, just depending on when you get that early frost, that late frost, all of that stuff. Here at the farm, we grow traditional and commercial crops. So common things that we know, tomatoes, cucumbers, lettuce, all of that. And our traditional crops include our Taos Pueblo red bean, Taos Pueblo Hubbard squash, and our Taos Pueblo blue corn, along with many other varieties of native seeds, just different varieties of beans, of corn, all of that. We do a lot of intercropping and staggered planting, really just to save space. And the intercropping really allows us to see just the relationship between plants and what works together, what doesn't, and yeah, what really just thrives together. Our staggered planting really allows us to harvest our food at different times. So we're not just getting like a ton of food at one moment. So we do at least 1 to 2 weeks between each of our plantings. As I said, at our farm, our focus is on seed saving, soil restoration, and food preservation, just really, adding to our mission there. And something while I was putting together this presentation that really stood out to me, in 2020, when we kind of first started with my directorship there, we had harvested maybe over like 500 pounds. In 2021, with us utilizing the space and learning more about our plants and our land, we harvested over 3,000 pounds of food. And now in our 3rd year, I feel like with our good team and really just developing systems, knowing our land, knowing our seeds, and knowing our water, we were able to harvest over 9,000 pounds of food this year, which all went towards Taos Pueblo families, different programs in our community that work with diabetes and seniors and young mothers and young families. And we were also able to start a CSA, as you can see down there, which is community supported agriculture, which really helped us get those funds to start our growing season. We were working with the state to offer 30 bags of free fresh food to 30 families here in the community, all multi-generational households. So that included like young children up to teens, adults, mothers, fathers, and grandparents. With that too, with so much food that we had grown, we were able to support small local markets around our community. So at least 3 other smaller communities around us. And yeah, we just donated as much as we could to a lot of community members who had different events going on, family events going on. We would just give out food because why not, and make food as accessible and equitable as much as we can. So yeah.
So Tiana, can you tell people what is a yarn heating system?
Yeah, and I believe that's the next slide.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
thank you.
So the garn, it's very unique. I think it was put in about 20 years ago when the organization started, but it's basically this huge 4x7 wood furnace. You can see my two kids there heating it up. So it has surrounding the wood furnace is water and propylene glycol, so it doesn't freeze. And so when we heat up the furnace, it heats up that water and then it distributes hot water into two of our greenhouses underground so it can heat up the earth. And then it also distributes hot air into our two greenhouses, as well as the Taos Pueblo Education Building right next to us and the Taos Pueblo Preservation Building. So they do a lot of like adobe home restoration, and they're also on the same property as us too. So it's one of the most, I guess, efficient energy heating things that we have at our farm. Right now, we're not using it just because we're focusing on soil restoration. I noticed when I came into the directorship that a lot of the soil in the greenhouses was really depleted, really dry, full of a lot of salt. It was already cracking. So, and we noticed that the heat was sort of doing to that too. And from what I had heard, there had been no soil restoration efforts in the past 20 years in those greenhouses. So the 3 years that I've been here, we've just been doing soil restoration in those greenhouses. But it's really great. Although we're not like planting anything in the ground to rebuild the soil, we do have some plants in there, some hanging. That's where we put our starts, and the heat is just, yeah, really helpful for that. So I hope after we really work on this soil that we're able to start up those greenhouses again and provide more food in the colder months and in the early spring.
Thank you.
So next. And really, I just wanted to show pictures just because we are a little limited on time, but these are some of our food preservation efforts. We do a lot of canning, but we also do a lot of drying because we need to utilize this hot New Mexico dry weather. So the students work together to build a solar dehydrator. And then the squash that you see behind here that looks very charred, we are learning traditional preservation methods. So we bring in a lot of elders from our community, and this is the Taos Pueblo Hubbard squash that we've had. So we went to that elder's home. We've used our big Ornos, built a fire in there, and then she taught us how to, char the squash and like let it sit for a day to where it's cooled. And then we come and peel it and kind of peel in spirals and hang that up. So it's used for winter food use.
So the picture above the headline food preservation, that's squash, it's not bread?
No, it's not bread. It's all squash. And so
Wow.
we've charred that in our oven. And that's really just to sort of cook it a little bit. So when you do dry it, really all you have to rehydrate it the next time you use it for any soups or any kind of foods that you want. Yeah.
Excellent.
And so next. And these are some of our greenhouse soil restoration efforts, as you can see. So what we've done in here is just use our broad fork. We really try and use no tilling because that really just messes up your soil even more. So we come into our greenhouses, use our broad fork to break up the ground, aerate it a little bit, and we used hairy vetch, winter rye, and some field pea in these greenhouses. But prior to that, I'm sorry, let me go back a little bit. You can see in that top right picture, what we do first before we break up the earth is we put a black tarp over it, and that's to force germination of any weeds or any like other stuff in there. Like really, we just kind of want to start with a blank slate. And so after that happens, then we go to the bottom left picture. We use the broad fork, break up the soil, and then we plant our cover crop, let it get to so high, we cut that down, leave the green plant matter, add compost, some extra soil if we have any, and then it's kind of just like a cake that we've been doing, just layers and layers of stuff, and aerating it with the broad fork and adding more cover crop. And really our soils have changed. I wish I should have added a picture in here to show you like the before and the after, but we were just working on this recently and our soil is looking like black cake. and I'm really excited about it for this year. But yeah, I just wanted to show you a little bit of what we've been doing. So next. And this is just to show some of our intercropping. As you can see, we have a lot of lettuce with peas, onions, with carrots. We try and do like roots with leafy greens in there. So this is just a lot of us like playing around, seeing what worked. You can see in our greenhouses a little bit of how depleted the soil is between the rows. But just like, yeah, just us learning, really. Like, I really feel farming is a constant learning effort, and it's really just observing your land, observing your water, where it falls and where it sits, where you get it from, with that observing like the insects, the pests, you know, all your critters and whatnot, even observing like the wind and all of that. And like, it really just helps you learn about where you're growing and what you're growing, what really works together, what doesn't. So yeah, this is just a really long learning journey for all of us, but it's really fun. And I feel that's where we really really bring together like the intergenerational learning gap between young people and elders. So yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. Next. So this is our farmers market. We host it every Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We're open to local farmers and small food businesses. We primarily just have like Taos Pueblo vendors there, although we are opening it up to others. It has been a little difficult for that during the pandemic because the Pueblo completely closed its borders to all outsiders. So it was just our little community in here, which actually was really, really great. Prior to the pandemic, a lot of our food would be bought out by people living outside of our community. And so there wasn't a lot left for our own community members. So the pandemic was a blessing in its own way. We were able to just serve our own people, and I saw more of our own people coming out to the farmers market. It was like one of the few social places within the community during the pandemic. And we really wanted to keep it going during that time because it also provided a revenue for a lot of our food vendors too in a very, very hard time. But it really just brought out, I feel, more of a sense of community, and really so many of our people started eating more healthy, locally grown vegetables. So it was really, really great.
Yeah.
During our farmers market, that's when we do a lot of food demonstrations. We brought in some local chefs at the time to just show how to use a lot of our foods, because that's what we noticed with what we were growing. A lot of people know what to do with like your common stuff, you know, carrots, cucumbers, tomatoes, zucchini, lettuce, all of that. But like a lot of people were really just didn't know what to do when it came to like beans or kale, cabbage, a lot of these other different stuff. So that's where we brought in local chefs just to show like how to make very simple, healthy meals with what we have. We also
Kale is one of those things that we all are puzzled by.
Yeah. And I'm like, why not do a food demo and like bring more of the community out? So it was just another way to like just really have us all connect after a really hard time of being isolated. And so during our farmers market times too, we do tours, which was primarily for our people. Kind of going back into the history of Red Willow, it had a very rocky relationship with the community, really due to its roller coaster of like leadership. It would be really good times some days and then really bad, but that really like severed the tie between the community. And so my big thing in my directorship was just to really bring back that relationship. And we did that through consistency and trust. And so we were able to build up our trust through the consistency, following through on what we said we were, being there when we said we were going to be there, offering, you know, what we said we were going to. And then the tours also helped too, just to really see what we were doing at the farm, what the kids were doing at the farm and all of that. At the farmers market is where we also do a lot of our food distribution and donations. So our partnership with the New Mexico Farmers Marketing Association with a program called Fresh RX, that's where we distributed 30 bags of food every week to 30 families. This is where they would come and pick it up. And this is just where we would like be open to any kind of just community issues, or if people needed donations, this is where we would just say, pick out whatever you need and take it.
So we have a couple questions for you that have come through the chat. What kind of tours would you offer?
Really just of the site, really just to show like what we were doing, to talk about the programs and the direction that we're headed in now. The Pueblo recently opened in July of this year, so we were able to offer some tours to tourists, just to let them know what's going on with Indigenous agriculture, because a lot of people are really curious about that. I had a lot of friends who did tour guiding in the Pueblo, and they would often send them to send tourists to us, just to, because they were really curious about like food systems and foodways. And I am more than
Right.
happy to teach a lot of people who had no clue and were not taught anything about Indigenous agriculture because of our American education system.
Right. And then another question, this person came in a little late and you may have said this, but how many acres of land do you use?
It's about maybe 0.75 acres. Although I would say that's a little here and there now because we're not utilizing all that we have. We do a lot of like crop rotations, and we try and leave one field that's just like vacant where we do a lot of our cover cropping just to make sure that the soil is good. So I would say it's anywhere from like a half an acre to 3/4 of an acre during the year.
And how much food do you think you produce pound wise?
This past year, with using that same system of like having one field just out of use, and we did not even use our greenhouses this year, which I have two that are about 80 feet, one that's 100 feet. We use about 3 caterpillar tunnels, which are just really small, like little hoop houses. So
Right.
with that and that very small space, we grew a little over 9,000 pounds of food that we
Wow.
harvested. But that's not counting like the corn that we harvested and some of our winter squash.
Oh, great. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you, Tiana.
Yeah. So a lot of food on a very, very small space. It is possible.
Yeah, but it's possible. It's possible.
Yeah. So next. And how am I on time?
We're getting close to needing to be done.
Cool. Well, these are really just pictures just to show like what we have at our farmers market, some of what we've been growing. We really try and make food very accessible to our people. So we offer a 30% discount for our tribal members, but we also make sure to have our prices not affected by inflation. So really like anything at the farm is never over like $8. And that's like, you know, counting a big cabbage or something, but we really try and keep things at like $5 or below. And then this is just what some of our community members bring in, of course, like fresh tortillas. We have like egg vendors there. We had some mushroom vendors there this year because it was a very great mushroom year in Taos. And then in the bottom right picture is just sort of how our market looks. I have our youth interns really running the market, getting them used to cashiering and customer service and all of that. And so that they're there to speak to the work that they're doing at the farm too.
I like that you're teaching others, the younger generations.
Yeah, young people are the future, and I'm like, I want one of you guys to take my job very soon. So please. So next. Yeah, this is just more of what we offer. The picture on the left is what we offer in our CSA. So we have 2 different tiers, a full share and a half share. So a half share can feed about 3 to 4 people. A full share can feed about like 5 to 6 people. And so we try and offer at least a few roots, a couple of leafy greens, an herb, a specialty item, you know, just whatever we have. And then yeah, lots of vendors love to bring tamales because that's our favorite food here at the farm too. Very handheld, and you can work and do all of that. And yeah, just some of our carrots that we've grown and our beets.
And I have one more question. How did you choose your location?
I didn't get to choose it. Like I said, the organization has been here for about 20 years. And from what I understand, I don't know if anyone's familiar with Tony Reyna, but he's pretty well known in the Southwest. He was a prisoner of war in World War II. He served as the governor of Taos Pueblo several times, has, I think, served I think on the Board of Education, either in Taos or for New Mexico, but he was just a really great community member that really focused on education and agriculture. So his land is actually, and he has a shop, it's like right next to us. And from what I've heard, he gave the tribe this land to focus on agriculture and education. So that's why we have the Taos Pueblo Education Building right next to us, and they do a lot of scholarship work, general assistance. There's a computer lab there. Our Tiwa language classes are held there. And then the Taos Pueblo Preservation, which does adobe restoration and adobe making. And so
nice.
students are supposed to go through there and learn about that and kind of like just cycle through.
Perfect. Oh, I like
Mhm.
that. Yeah. Okay. We will have Q&A at the end as well. So if somebody has additional questions, oh, look, more gorgeous food.
And yeah, more food. So these are just pictures from our food demonstration. Our chefs are Lee and Dorothy. They originally come from New York, but have settled in Taos for about 5 years now. And, we're just, making friends, making partnerships with as many BIPOC people in our community as we could too. And these women cook the best food ever. They have that kind of soul food flair too. And we give them a lot of our produce for their little cafe. And we've worked out a partnership where they come to the farm at least 3 times in the summer to do these food demonstrations for us. And the community loved it. So in the middle, you're going to see a little zucchini crepe with like some winter squash in the inside, and that's what's happening in the top right corner. But these have been really great for us. The people really know how to use our food. They learn new recipes and they're trying it at home. So we hope by the end of this year to create a little cookbook out of all of the recipes that they showed us.
Great. So Tiana, as you have individuals that come to your Red Willow Center, they get to learn more than just here's a carrot and here's a potato. They learn why these foods are important to your culture as well.
Exactly.
Okay.
And the best time we do that is like when we're weeding together.
Oh yeah.
There's always something to weed in a garden. And I like that's where we have like the most open and honest and profound conversations, especially with kids. So with the little time I have left, I'll just get into the youth program. And this is like what is near and dear to my heart. And just to go back a little bit, Red Willow was initially started as a demonstration garden for the Taos Pueblo community. We have always been farmers. Farming is in our blood, it's in our history, but it has really declined since the 70s, of course, with like assimilation, colonization, urbanization, all of that. And so I'm really just trying to bring it back because farming for me has always been really healing, and I want it to be healing for my people too. And I really want to provide a safe space and opportunity for young people in my community, because growing up was tough. I had a very, very hard time. And I know so many of my peers and my family had a very hard time growing up in our community. We just know what it is, what it's like. And there's not a lot of opportunity for young people in our communities. So I was fortunate enough to have, some little opportunities here and there through internships. College really helped me out too. And I just, all of that is really open to what we can do to create a strong community for our people moving forward. And so when I came into the directorship here at Red Willow, I am still really maintaining the essence of being a demonstration farm for the Taos Pueblo community, but I'm shifting my focus on the youth, because there's not a lot for youth to do here in the community, and there's not a lot of hope that I see when talking to these young people when it comes to their future. So I'm like, you can really be whatever you want, you can do whatever you want. And in these youth programs, we do teach a lot about farming and agriculture, traditional agriculture, what that really means, seed saving and all of that, and how it's important. But I like to see and learn from the students of what they want to do and where they gravitate in the farm, as far as the market, the gardens, the youth program, anything else. And that really just helps me see what they're interested in. And I just, let them know that they can take whatever path that they want. They can't go hungry because they know how to grow food now. But yeah, just really preparing them for this big outside world, empowering them to use their voice, letting them know that they're important, that it is a safe space there at the farm, and just letting them know that we're here to support them with whatever path they take in their life. So this is just us working together, having fun, working in the gardens, going to other people's gardens to help them out, especially our elders, and yeah, just really learning together. And it's just been the best time ever. And sorry if I get emotional, but I love these kids, and like they are the hardest workers that I have ever had, harder workers than most adults that I've hired. And they're just so good. You know, they're really open to learning, and the conversations we have in the gardens are really amazing. You know, they expand to like, you know, gender roles, government, you know, sexuality, like what's happening in the world, you know, all sorts of things. And really it just comes back to like the food and why it's so important for us to grow food and, you know, create a strong food system in our community, because no matter where these kids go, I tell them that home is always going to be here for them. And we need to have a good home for them for when they come back, and, you know, provide opportunity and space for them to contribute to what, you know, our community needs.
Right.
So, yeah,
And it looks like, you know, they can feel that, they sense that, and they know that they can always come back. And that's
Exactly.
a very, it's a gift that's beyond what most of us will ever experience. Yeah. Thank you, Tiana. I appreciate this.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, that's the end of my presentation. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to talk about what we do here. I know it's kind of off of like the harvesting food at the right time, but I feel like that's where I talked about our staggered growing and just really being observant of your farm and your garden and your plants, because then you just, once you really observe, then you know
Right.
when it's time to pick it, then you know like how to preserve it, then you know like how to grow it, where to grow it, all of these things. So,
Right.
yeah.
And for all of you watching, her connection, her contact information will be again at the end as well. So, and you will get this. It will be you'll get this through an email. And I'm sorry, I'm having a weird day today. I'm a little out of myself, but you will get this in a recorded message, and you will be able to pick up on Tiana and everyone else's information as well. So now we have next is Chef Jessica. Chef Walks First, Jessica Pomonica.
Good.
And she's just been all over the news lately. Anyway, welcome, Chef.
Hi, so I am Chef Walks First. I'm the executive chef and owner of Keetapan Kitchen. Keetapan Kitchen is the first and only Native American catering company and pop-up kitchen in Chicago and probably the Great Lakes region. Given Chicago has the largest urban Indian population in the country with over 100,000 natives in this area, there is zero representation of, you know, our food here, given that the Chicago is the ancestral homelands of several tribes, and it is a cultural mecca where you can find food from everywhere around the world. It struck me as odd that there was no representation of native foods here at all. So when I started my endeavor about 7 years ago, I just wanted to cook. I grew up in a kitchen with my mom. My father had taught my mom how to cook. His father taught him how to cook. It's just something we do. And, you know, when you grow up and, you know, even though I am 250 miles away from my ancestral homelands, we did have a large community here. And, you know, we all gathered together growing up, and it was always an event. And, you know, I was always in the kitchen. The first place you go to the kitchen, you help. you cook, you serve people. I was taught that that's a sacred act. Growing is its whole, own thing, but the act of actually preparing food and serving people and taking care of your community is a sacred act itself. So, that was ingrained in me growing up. So when I started off on this venture, and it took a lot of time to cultivate where I wanted to go. And the creator has thrown many curveballs in my path, and I think I've caught them all. So ideally, I wanted to do a food truck, and that just went out the window with the pandemic. And it was actually going to go away from catering, and that went out the window last year with all the media publicity. And so what happened was I do the catering, and I've been able to cater in a lot of very big places, like all the university systems. I did a 1-month run at the Field Museum of Chicago. I'll be catering for the Art Institute next month. So I've been in a lot of educational institutions. And what happened is when you bring something that is completely new, like indigenous foods are completely new to Chicago, which is a shocking statement to even say, that you can't bring it without the education to back it up, because people don't know. And that surprises me, because over 50% of our grown foods are indigenous. And there are things that people eat every single day that they don't recognize as indigenous foods because our education systems have failed us. There's no book that tells you this. We're not taught this stuff in schools. I mean, and we all know, all of the indigenous contributions are largely unrecognized in every area. So, I mean, when I took this on, I didn't realize I was going to have to conquer education as well as cooking. It was a given. So, and I listened to what Tiana presented, and honestly, she's doing what I want to do. So when we did the catering, we decided we would stick with catering, and we're working towards opening a brick and mortar. But my education pursuits have led me in another direction as well. And this year we will be launching a nonprofit organization called Michi. And the focus of it is education and restoration of traditional foods.
So Jeff, can you say that again? What's the name of the?
So Michi, it's a take on the Menominee word to eat.
Okay, thank you.
Well, we started a fundraising for our Seed to Feed initiative, which would basically fuel our educational pursuits. And we realized it needed to be so much more than that. In a where we have a concentration of large amount of people, all of us away from ancestral homelands, our access to traditional foods is sparse. Unless we're going home, someone's shipping it to us, there's no real place for us to, have access. And we do have a couple community gardens. They're very small and spaced out, but not everybody has access to them. So, and all of this, what I've learned is that if I want access, and I would like all these people to have access, I have to stand up and do something about it. So when we thought about, the Seed to Feed initiative and realized now this is going to be a nonprofit organization, and our ultimate goal is kind of to do what Tiana has done. We want to build a farm here in Illinois where our community members can access it, where we will grow traditional foods, and we're going to have to start from the beginning, making sure that the soil's right, making sure the growing conditions are right, what foods will thrive and survive in the environment and climate here in Chicago. And if you guys have ever been here, you guys know we get all 4 seasons in one day sometimes. So it's crazy here weather-wise. So, but as we're building it out, we want it to be, we look at like the history of Native people. If you read any historical accounts, everything points to we were very healthy people. We didn't have all these diseases and, all this other stuff. And it's all because of our diets, Everything we eat now is highly processed, most of us anyway. So, we start researching and figuring out, okay, well, we want to buy about 10 acres of land. We want to start growing, maybe bring in some, bison or something like that, but that's further down the line. And what we also wanted to do is because, the whole thing with our community here is there's a sense of disconnection. And I think it's not just my community. I think it's, everyone after, being locked down in a pandemic, that disconnect grew bigger. And I figure like food is a way to bring people together. So if I do this, I want this to be a source of connection. So we had thought about how we can make connection and food one into this nonprofit. And what we want to do is build a small house village with those cute little tiny houses
Yeah.
where community members can live in exchange for working on the farm. So they don't have to pay rent and bills and stuff, especially when, you know, housing in Chicago is astronomical. They can live, they can contribute, and they can learn and grow along with us. I mean, a lot of us, you know, we may learn about traditional foods and everything, but a lot of us don't have that whole big expanse of knowledge where from growth to the plate. It's something I'm still learning. So we wanted to create a space where that could happen, where we can teach, you know, our community members how to grow their foods, how to nurture them, how to develop those relationships with your food, and then all the way down to preparing it. So it'd be like a place to live, farm, grow, but also with a teaching kitchen that would be, and maybe, you know, like a cafe that would be open to the public, where we could educate groups, whether they be non-native or native groups, on, you know, all of our traditional foods and growing practices. So that's like our 5-year plan. I mean, we are like in the infancy stages of it. And I look at what Tiana's done and I'm like, I need to go visit her. I need to go see all the amazing things you're doing, because you have just given me so many ideas. But that's a whole nother story for off of this conversation. But so in the meantime, my work takes me in a lot of places. And every time I cater, I'm asked to do education. And I don't have a problem with it. I was very shy about it at first, and I get stage fright like you would not believe. And now it just comes natural to me. And I've partnered with a very prominent organization here in Chicago called the Trotter Project. And the Trotter Project is a nonprofit organization that carries on the legacy of the world-renowned restaurateur, Charlie Trotter. Now, he was brilliant in the kitchen, but his passion was community, youth, and education. And he did a lot of amazing things here in Chicago within the Chicago public school system. So when he passed away, you know, his protege, Chef Kumaro Cantu, went to his family, talked about carrying on his legacy, and the Trotter Project was formed. And now I am a core chef and a partner with them. And we are working on a lot of different educational projects. Our main, like they do a lot of farm to table education with students in marginalized areas of Chicago, and now they're expanding that to include, you know, the native community here in Chicago as well. But we actually launch our first project tomorrow. We are launching we're piloting a health and wellness series that basically is going to talk about, you know, introducing indigenous foods to your diet, how to cook healthy, how to shop healthy, how to eat healthy, and things that you can do, and, you know, to just, you know, change your health, your children's health, but also affect the next generations, because any education we do, it shouldn't just benefit us, but the future.
Right.
So we launch the pilot tomorrow, and after we're done, hopefully it's a program that can implement other communities. You know, we have a doctor work with us to make sure, you know, she's doing all the checks and balances to make it an effective program. So I like that, because it's like, you know, it's funny, I work and she's like the Dr. Biscro, she's the science of it, you know, her is scientifically proven thing. I don't have that. It's something, it's natural, that growing and eating and feeding, is natural to us. We don't know carbs and calories that are translated into our language. But the gist of my end of this is, you know, so near and dear to my heart. When we look at communities, and it's not just the native communities, but like if you look at all the communities with people of color, we have high, you know, rates of disease, diabetes, high cholesterol, autoimmune disorders, all those things. Diets. Most of us, and then there's they say you were born in the 80s, never eaten real food. And I find that to be somewhat about 90s becoming, you know, more genetically modified. Everything is quick and convenient. If you go to the store, on the project with their pantry. So when I started developing this program, I thought, you know, just this is what you need to cook. This is how you need to cook. They go back to the basics, and they need to shop. And my biggest, you know, thing is when you go to a grocery store, you walk into a store. If you only walk the outside aisles of the store, you're going to find fresh produce. You're going to meats, you're going to find fresh dairy. If you send your aisles, that's where all the processed stuff is. That's where all the chemicals are. You know, and our bodies were never meant to digest and process chemicals. It's just, it's not the way nature intended. So in order to get back to, you know, healthy eating, you have to looking at what you're putting into your body. So the basic program is basic teaching from to incorporate, and the biggest
I'm sorry, Chef Jessica, we are having technical difficulties hearing you. Your connection is cutting in and out.
all look at groceries per month. Look at spend in processed foods. Add it all up, and then if I can make the version of things and at the end of 3 months, you get the money. People know that they can do that. There's so many things you make in your own home to substitute all those bottles and stuff. I mean, I've been in my stand mixer and let it go. I have my own butter. I have my own mayonnaise. All of eggs to go. People don't have that knowledge. I mean, everyone, when they're taught about healthy eating, and I've looked at like so many different programs, it all talks about carbs, calories. I mean, you know, honestly, it doesn't need to be that complex.
Chef
You know,
Jessica,
eating healthy is this big complex thing, and it's really not. It's all about going back to fresh food. The fresher the food you put in your body, the less chemicals you put in your body, the better health you're going to gain. I myself, at one point, I weighed 280 pounds. My diet consisted of fast food, everything that was easy and quick to cook. When I started culinary school and started learning about healthier foods and making my own sauces and making my own condiments and just cooking from scratch, within 6 months' time of eliminating all the chemicals in my diet, the processed foods, I lost 100 pounds without any effort whatsoever. My AD was in a diabetic range, and it went down to a normal range in 6 months' time, just by taking out all of the chemicals in the diet. And so we do all these education segments. You know, I don't teach people to count calories, make sure you have the perfect size portions. I stay away from all that. That's what scientists and doctors do. What I do is teach you about ingredients and, you know, how to use them, cook with them, and, you know, just eat in a healthier way. Like, for instance, when I make a salad, I incorporate fruits, vegetables. I make my own vinaigrettes using various juices, or I sweeten with maple or agave nectar. And I try to avoid, you know, even like everything I cook, I don't fry foods. That's like the biggest no-no for me. If I saute, I'll saute in coconut oil, or sometimes like grapeseed oil. It's not really recommended. It smokes really high, but you know, I try to find ways to cook. Everything in my catering business is done with no chemicals, processed foods, seasoning fresh. I use everything. I mean, I can't think of something that I'd use that's processed. There's nothing. And when I teach these classes, I try to incorporate everything I do in my own kitchen into these lessons. So the pilot program, like I said, starts tomorrow. And at the end, it will launch hopefully with a cookbook and some of the recipes that will be, you know, teaching these communities will be included in there. And all of this eventually to everything that I do, kind of any education I give always is stored in our Seed to Feed initiative so that it's available to other communities, because people always call and ask, you know, well, can you come out and teach us about this, that, or the other? And I make sure that I keep a library of everything I do. I do food demos quite often. And like I said, my biggest surprise is that people don't really understand, you know, how many indigenous foods eat every single day. Like, I think at Thanksgiving time, I told them, okay, look on your plate and tell me if you can identify what ingredients are indigenous foods. And people were really dumbfounded. They're like, the only one they really got corn and squash. I'm like, okay. You know, people realize things like cranberries, even turkey. So, you know, I think for me, introducing them to that knowledge, you know, we have, even I guess I'm still learning as I go too, but learning which foods are indigenous and how to cook them in a healthy way, and by eliminating the processed foods, that's like my biggest, no matter what I do in education, it all goes down that road, is making those changes. And if you look at even my menu items, and everyone says like my biggest selling item on my menu is tamales. Now everyone's like, oh, tamales are not indigenous. Yes, they are. As Tiana showed, people in the Southwest, tamales are a staple, you know. And then, you know, Mexico, people always say, oh, Mexican people are Mexican. No, they all have indigenous roots, but that border has prevented us from seeing them as our indigenous brothers and sisters. And a lot of the foods that Mexican people eat are indigenous. And I have decided, like with my menu, I didn't want to just do one region. I didn't want to just focus on Great Lakes region. I wanted to incorporate all those ingredients, you know, because we've all become intertribal people. We share everything. You know, when so much of our culture has been lost, you know, we seek to, you know, things from other tribes, borrow this, borrow that, as a way to maintain, you know, what we have. So my ingredients do the same thing. I reach across, you know, all the tribal borders and gather ingredients from every direction to make my dishes. Like for my tamales, my most famous tamale is my blueberry bison.
Yeah.
And people look at me when they say blueberries and bison, you know, it goes good together really well. I do a braised bison, and I do like, it's like I want to say it's a barbacoa type seasoning in it. It's a little bit spicy, not too much. And the masa I make with wild blueberries. So it's a corn masa with wild blueberries inside. Then our other tamale we make is wild turkey, and we do that chipotle style with chipotle peppers. And then we fuse it into a cranberry masa. And then we just launched another tamale, which is the Three Sisters, which has black beans, corn, and butternut squash. And the masa is made with maple, sweet corn, and cranberries. These things, they're really good, but they're healthy. I like most people when they make tamales, they use lard. I don't use lard, I use coconut oil. And so I try to sub out like healthier ingredients when possible. But those, I mean, they're amazing. People love them. And it introduces people to the concept that indigenous foods are very present in our diets. They are not, it's like people think about, I don't even know how to describe it. When, you know, ask people what they think indigenous foods are. I mean, they sometimes think that our diets were archaic. It's strange. And the only food that ever comes up when people say indigenous foods is fry bread, I was like, wow, you know, we have a lot of ground to cover when it comes to education. Because although we know fry bread is a food, you know, indigenous food, it is more contemporary than traditional, and it has its own story as a survival food, but that is not all that we are. And, you know, when I pull out dishes and I tell people that these are indigenous ingredients, people are really, really shocked. Like I did a jam board session with a group of teachers where we put 15 different ingredients on a board, and we asked them to move all the ones that they thought were indigenous into a plate. And some of them grabbed one or two, some of them grabbed, you know, 5. But I think one teacher moved all of them. And that was the kicker, that every single one of them. So, I mean, my work is cut out for me. And the way I introduce my food and the ingredients that I use is just one step in the direction of that education. When, you know, people have my food and they're amazed at the dishes because they're very common to people. Like one of our other popular dishes is pulled bison, and we do a smoked pretty pear barbecue sauce, or we sometimes do a blueberry barbecue sauce. And and we do bannock rolls. I won't make fry bread. Not that I don't love it, I just don't want to fry anything. So we bake them. And people are very shocked. They're like, wow, this is indigenous food? It is. You know, but people think that our food somehow stopped back in, you know, that it's not contemporary. But then again, I guess people look at us as not in the contemporary quite often. So when they see dishes that they're familiar with and they see ingredients that they're familiar with and they start to recognize them as indigenous foods, it's very shocking to people. It's enlightening. I mean, I think I've seen a lot of people walk away from my sessions and dinners like really amazed and surprised at how vast our food sources are. So for me, like, you know, restoring them is another big thing on my plate. You know, I love cooking, I love feeding people, but I need to get where Tiana is and I need to start growing because I think, you know, for any of us to have a healthy relationship with food. Yeah. You have a question, Kelly?
We have to move to our next speaker.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Can you
need
hear?
to-
I can hear you talking, but I can't hear you.
Oh, we need to move to our next speaker.
Chef Chris or Jessica, can you hear me?
Can somebody let me know if they can hear me? Because I can't hear anything.
We can hear you, Chef
Okay.
Jessica.
I don't know how to do this.
We gotta move on, Jessica.
Kelly, can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Okay, someone can hear. Okay, sorry, guys. I can't hear anybody, and I can see Kelly talking. But really quick, before I wrap up, I'm going to share a link in the chat. One of the things we have done with the Trotter Project is make scholarships available to our communities. They are in the areas of agriculture, hospitality management, and culinary arts. The scholarship applications just opened up, and I think they're available for the next month. They're up to $10,000 to any accredited university. They're through the Trotter Project, and I'll share the link in the chat. So if anybody knew of any high school students that had, you know, interest in any of those areas, those scholarships are available, and they'll have all the information how to apply. So with that, if you guys have any questions, I'll be available at the end for Q&A, and we can go on to the next speaker.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. Spring, I hope you can hear me.
Yeah,
We're ready for you.
Can you hear me? Yeah, we have a storm here today, so if I cut out, let me know early.
Okay.
I just wanted to give a shout out to Jessica. If you can see this is blueberry sweetgrass hot sauce that we just made. And I just thought of you because you said bison and blueberry, and it's amazing. I wish we had more bison out here. Thank you everyone for participating in this today. Thanks to Jessica, Chef Walks First, and Tiana. It's really inspiring to know that there's other aunties out there that are doing the same work or similar work that I'm doing, because like they said, we're all, if it's not being done, we're doing it ourselves. And also, Tiana, we need someone to take our jobs over too. So that's the important work of getting our youth involved, right? We're just going to go through the slideshow here. I'm going to go a little quick because I have a lot of slides, and a lot of this is repetition, which is great. We're all doing very similar work. My name is Spring Alaska Shriner. My Inupiaq name is Upingzrak. It means time when the ice breaks. I'm from the King and Canute clan. We're originally from Little Diomede Island, which separates Russia and Nome. And we're specifically from south of Nome, at the Nook Fish Camp is our specific family clan there. I was raised in Valdez, Alaska, so I'm part of the Chugach Alaska Native Corporation. I'm from the Olson family, and I own Sakari Farms. We're a tribal food and farm education business in Bend, Oregon. We're in Tumalo, just a little outside there. Next slide. So I'm just going to run through. This is our farm. We own about 6 acres. We purchased it about 5 years ago, took out a bunch of loans. It's the only way to do it because we're broke natives. And this is it. We're at capacity now. So we've got our properties in an L shape. On the front field, it's all natives and medicinals. We have a like almost 60-day growing season here. We're in high desert, so very similar to the Southwest almost. And then our other part of the field, we have 700-foot high tunnels that we got from a Keepton, which is our tribal CDFI, the Lakota. Let's see, because we have a lot of climate change issues, there lack of irrigation water, high winds, hailstorms. We don't get snow anymore. Tiana might be dealing with some of this too. We have to put everything in greenhouses, and also we're working with NRCS to fully convert our hand lines to drip irrigation. So now we're working everything off of each drop of water. Our farm is loaded as an educational farm with different regions on the property where tribal youth and adults can come out from their reservation or off reservation and participate in, because this region is not known specifically for farming. It's where, berries, fish, roots, and meat, that's our tradish foods. And so I'm trying to replicate that. I'm in a situation living away from Alaska where I'm in a fairly urban setting. It's very non-native, and I don't have any resources to my food unless I go out and gather them. And I don't have all those traditional hunting rights here as I do up in Alaska. So I wanted to mimic that situation here for other tribal people to gather, heal through food. So we've got a berry patch: elderberries, salmon berries, raspberries, rose hips, elderberries, blueberries, so they can go and pick in their berry patch. We have food demonstration boxes that you'll see at the bottom right, and they're just full of your traditional roots, lomatium, biscuit bear root, camas, wapato. We're gonna have some water put in those. We have a lavender patch, and we have lots of elderberries growing on the property. So we basically only grow native traditional foods, mostly roots and native plants and medicine, and incorporate that into our education and food systems. This is our model.
Spring, we have a quick question for you. Who were your funding sources?
For the farm?
Yeah.
I write a lot of grants. It's really competitive to get non-native grants because I don't live on a reservation and we're not a nonprofit yet. So it's mostly grant writing, a lot of loans, a lot of tribal loans to keep native money in native hands to support our tribal people.
All right.
So our model is a little different. We're surrounded by non-native farms. So everyone's cranking out CSAs and farmers markets and blah, 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 which is all great. But I wanted to slow things down a little bit. So what we do is we grow one plant once. That's how natives work. Repetitive planting tends to damage the soil. This allows a simplistic thought of how you treat the plant and the land versus just grow, sell, profit. And it's a less capitalistic model, and it's more gracious on our land too. We want to really take care of our soils. We have the whole plant theory where most tribes use the whole plant. We use the seed, the plant has medicine, there's plant dye that we can use for our quill dyeing and our birch bark dyeing for earrings, our hides and some of our furs, the roots, and then the fruit that it produces. So the whole plant is valuable to tribal people, and it also can be profitable as well. Another reason that we have this model is it's less labor. We have less on-farm injuries. There's higher morale. 80% of our staff is native, which is awesome. It's really challenging, but I feel like we're grabbing these youth and young adults. They're in sense of community. They're safe. It's a safe place to relax and learn about their foods. There's a higher learning curve. There's more commitment to your work versus just a paycheck. And you're not running around exhausted and resentful as a farmer. And we also store food year round. So we have a drying room and a shed where instead of that CSA model, sometimes where you can only have food for a few months, it's fresh. We preserve everything. We also keep fresh and give it away too, but it's just a lot easier farming this way. This is some pictures of our farm. Again, this is a cute little Hopi watermelon in the left. Tribal onions, red Creole, they're beautiful. This is one of our hoop houses at the top where we have a lot of pollinators and white-capped buffalo tobacco that we grow that functions as pest management, kind of like the marigold. And then we grow a lot of Hopi red amaranth for grain and plant dye. And feel free to save some questions for the end. I'm just going to blaze through this. Tribal commercial kitchen. We just built a 900 square foot commercial kitchen. There isn't a tribal kitchen anywhere and the reservations around us. I wasn't going to wait. I know Warm Springs, cheers out to them. They're building a giant infrastructure incubator. It's a few years out, I think, with funding. Ours is 900 square foot. we're super excited waiting for the county to give us the big stamp of approval. But this is a place where tribal youth can come on the farm and learn how to make their own value-added food products. They can go out on the farm, pick their own traditional plants, go in the kitchen, create their own recipes. I specialize in niche marketing, labeling, creation, business plans. Just get them started so they can be self-sufficient and do their own thing, and they can make a lot of money too. It's really fun for them. So this is where we'll have tribal food cooking classes. We're hoping to get Sean Sherman out. Maybe we can get Chef Walks First to come out. And we have a lot of tribal long table events. So click to the next slide. Yeah, I know that Jessica's gonna like this, and Tiana. We host these tribal long table events. Non-natives call them farm to table. But we have these beautiful long tables we put out on the farm. So after they go harvest, we have chefs, and they can also engage in cooking. This is Riley, she's Danae, and she's beautiful. And we have these amazing, traditionally, menus. On the far right is salmon with sweetgrass, some smoked poblano, teepery bean crackers, wild rice with blueberries. So we're really cranking out that food education component, like Tiana and Jessica were both stating that someone else needs to do this. It's part of our health food system and creating safe spaces, and also our traditional foods. I also manage the Pacific Northwest Tribal Seed Bank. I work with Indigenous Seed Keepers Network. I'm a seed keeper. What we do is we take seed that from other tribes, we grow it out, send it back to them, save some, regrow it ourselves, and then gift it out for free. I'm trying to focus on Northwest, but everyone from around Turtle Island's always wanting to seed, and we just wrapped up gifting that to everyone. So everything starts at the seed. We know with our people, that's our ancestral pathway. It's so important to use our traditional seeds. It carries ceremony. And so I'm really trying to carry that tradition on. It takes a lot of vetting and like a decade to really get those populations back to where they need to be. But this is the root of everything, is where seed starts. Next slide. This is where it gets really fun. We make value-added food products. So, you know, like the Gete squash, we core it out. We make freeze-dried squash candy that's rolled in maple sugar. So vitamin C, maple sugar is really good for you. It's a good, healthy snack for kids. Not everyone is excited about squash. A lot of Alaska Natives have no idea what squash is. So we're trying to take our traditional foods, make them fun for kids to learn about, and then we teach them how to save the seed and create their own food recipes with it. We also have cedar smoked salt and lots of hot sauces. And once that kitchen's opens, we'll have Hopi black beans smoked dip, you know, like we're going to be creating fresh foods for everyone that they could come and purchase. So endless possibilities with the ability to take that traditional seed, grow it out into a fruit or a plant, and then create a value-added product with it. 90% of our foods that we sell are to Native people, which is really cool all throughout Turtle Island. It feels really good to, again, keep Native money in Native hands. Next slide.
Her hot sauce is the bomb. I mean to tell you, it is the best hot sauce ever. It is so good.
That's what's cool about the hot sauce, is that everything's grown on site. There's only like 5 ingredients. It's just the vegetables and the plant materials and the herbs that we grow. There's some vinegar in there.
Good. It's got that smokiness to, oh, it's just so good. I love it.
Yeah, we have a smoke shed and smoke everything we can get our hands on, and it helps with preserving food too.
Yeah.
One of the programs, so the farm, basically what we do is we have a reparation-based system. Funding comes in, we grow the food, and we give it away. You know, so the fresh food that we grow, we have these tribal food boxes, and now I'm kind of gearing it towards more pallet-based, or, you know, just get it on a truck and deliver it to a reservation. We focus on Warm Springs, but this year, Klamath, Umatilla, Grand Ronde, we're going to try and branch out a little bit, because free food is what we need. It's hard enough being Native. It's hard enough competing with non-Natives for opportunities, getting healthy food in our systems, on and on. So we created this thing where it's free. It's only native foods. And I also grow sweetgrass, and we put sweetgrass braids and cedar bundles in there for medicine. I mean, it's just a no-brainer there. So we take all of the food, we give it away first, and whatever's left, then we allocate for the value-added food products. Next slide. On-farm education, TEK, traditional ecological knowledge. Again, specializing in bringing, this year we're just doing natives only on the farm. I need to really focus on our people. But we participate in Oregon Farm to School program. It's a national program where kids come out from the school, engage in workshops, pollinator education, growing techniques. They plant a little bit. They get to do a lot of food sampling, but a lot of on-farm education. COVID's put a little stinker in that, over the last few years. I'm sure you're all aware, and things are kind of opening back up where we can have a lot more traditionally focused one-on-one individual classes for people. The retention level is a lot higher when you've got native auntie teaching you things, and there's no competition with, not being ashamed of being your own culture and getting excited about bison and blueberries. Next slide. This is also exciting. First tribal grocery store that I've heard of. It's only native foods. There's no preservatives. We use other tribal vendors too from around Indian country up in Minnesota, Wisconsin, Oneida tribe. We got wild rice in here, maple sugar, chokecherry jam. So we're supporting other tribal producers, which keeps them going. And then we're also providing this variety of palate for tribal people that are from other regions. Not everybody that lives in Oregon is from an Oregon tribe. And so it allows them that kind of home comfort, those blood memory smells of smelling sweetgrass in your food and bringing back that chokecherry. So we have a tribal grocery store on site where you can come and pick out whatever you want. And if you're, I do a lot of healing work. So if you're not feeling well, or if you have an elder that needs something, we've got boxes of ceremony for you. We've got sweetgrass, cedar bundles, mugwort, let's say yarrow. There's a lot of bulk medicine on site, so we can just put something together for you also. Next slide. This is really exciting for me. I noticed, being from Alaska, I can't find a lot of tribal foods down here. And a lot of other people were wondering, they're calling me all the time, where do I get salmon? Where can I get this and that? We need a gallon of huckleberries. So I created the Pacific Northwest Intertribal Agricultural Guide. It's basically a tribal food guide for the Northwest. It's Idaho, Washington, and Oregon just for now. It's going to be a free website. It should be launching in a month or two. We're going to start with Oregon, but I found a ton of people in the Northwest that have tribal businesses, and you can also, it's for trading too. It's not necessarily it's not a for-profit thing as much as you think it'd be, but it has seed keepers, farmers, our fish, our meat, our berries, chefs. Where are our tribal chefs at? They're out there. Let's bring them up and promote what they're doing. Community gardens, restaurants, etc. So the intent of this is that bringing back that intertribal trade route that Jessica was talking about is, if I'm driving from Bend to Seattle and I need to get some fish on the way, I can pull up that website and go boom. And also it prepares you to bring things to trade as well. Always show up with gifts and things to trade with. It also increases tribal enterprise, food access. It brings back our traditional knowledge, tribal economy, self-reliance, and of course, being self-sufficient. So we're really excited about that. And then, to get back to healthy foods, the intent of why we're here today, I just put together the work that we do is to bring back that reconnection with our ancestors, talking about using tribal seed, bringing back our tribal foods, reestablishing our tribal trade routes. I know that I'm getting ready to go to Nez Perce in a month for a tribal food conference, and I'm already preparing. I've got tobacco pouches to give away. what can I make to bring to give away for free? And sometimes anti-sesame earrings, you know, super excited to like see everyone and trade, because you're making those connections that have been lost and taken away from us in the last, you know, multiple 100 years. We're learning our language again. We're connecting with aunties because a lot of us have trauma issues and healing. And every time you run into someone that has similar things going on, instant, you know, bringing it together with food. It helps us get outside, take those river walks and pick those berries, being around your fish habitat, the smells, again, reconnecting with that blood memory. Like when you smell sweetgrass, some of the elders, it brings them way back, because we have Lakota elders that live out here. And they're like, this reminds me of like 60 years ago when you can walk in the prairies and it just grew natural. It also brings back family and community. You know, getting outside is really helpful. Go ahead, Kelly.
You have a couple questions here in the chat. Have you?
Yeah, I have like one more slide and I can get to
Oh,
questions.
okay.
Like I'm
All right.
basically done. Just give me 2 more sentences.
Go for it.
And then it brings back health awareness. You know, there's a lot of social diseases that Tiana and Jessica both talked about. Diabetes, we can name them all. We don't want to bring up the depressing things. You know, it reduces heart issues and blood issues. It protects our energy and surroundings. It strengthens our spirit. We're just trying to use that food to maintain a more healthier existence. And we're back. You know, Native people have been here the whole time. We're back and we're here to rock. So that was my last slide. The next one is just my contact information. If anyone has any questions, let's go for it.
So we have Winix Red Elk asks, have you identified wild foods from the area you are in and gathered seed stock first foods of that area?
Oh yeah, that's all I do.
Okay.
It's I'm gathering all the time. I've been here for 16 years in Oregon, so I started the day I got here. Yarrow, I do a lot, you know, the wildflower production or the native plant production. So I gather all my native plants and roots. I have outsourced, I'm still looking for camas bulbs for food production in those traditional demonstration beds. So you can use little camas bulbs, but I don't outsource that much. I'm also trying to protect our lands. I gather all my own elderberries and all the berries that we have here that we grow or eat. And they're sitting in a freezer for storage. If, you know, when I come up Linux to Umatilla soon, I'll be bringing a few gallons of huckleberries to share. But I gather everything and just try and protect our resources. There's a lot of people, as Linux know, that are taking our berries and our plants and over digging things and over harvesting mushrooms and chaga and things like that. So I'm out there kind of policing a little bit and also being really stealth as natives are, and, you know, gathering what we need and getting out of there and protecting it at the same time.
So you may have already answered this next question. Are you growing choke cherries or wild currants or other first foods that have year turnaround growing seasons?
Yes, not choke cherries and currants. We have wax currant here. So we have elderberries, huckleberries, black raspberries, normal raspberries, wild strawberries, blueberries, salmon berries, which I'm really excited about.
Wow.
I think some cherries. It's a ornamental tree. I'm missing a few, but yeah, we've got like 8 to 10 varieties here.
And then the last question, what root species that are traditional or native foods? What root species that are traditional or native foods that are locally are you considering growing?
We do have mariposa on the property, which is really exciting. Biscuit, bitterroot, lomatium, wapato, camas. We have some rare potatoes from the Pueblo area.
Okay.
We have macaw potatoes. So I'd say 5 to 10 varieties of traditional roots from around the region.
And then in Oneida, Wisconsin, we have a family that started their own farm, have a commercial kitchen, and also just set up a storefront where people can barter their homegrown items. I think then they put in the links to them. What about Mariposa, Lily, or Rare Roots?
We do gather Mariposa on the property. And then for the commercial kitchen in Oneida, I know that Becky Webster, Oneida, this might be their website. I'm trying to peek at it. Yeah, it's Becky. Amazing. I've been watching their growth the whole time. Amazing. And we work off of a trade barter system here. A lot of the times when a tribal member comes to the farm, there's no paying, you know, we just, what do you need? If you can tell me what you need, because natives sometimes have a hard time asking for things. You know, I can pull it out finally. And then it's more like, we have 20 pounds of potatoes in the walk-in, please take them. Oh, you do? Okay, great. So that's kind of how we work. No one leaves empty-handed. We end up giving away a lot of food because sometimes we have too much. It's too hot out. We don't have enough room in the walk-in cooler, you know, so it's a giving, you know, natives work out of generosity, not financial gains. Right. And so I know that ancestors are always watching. We're not in a capitalistic society. We do have to make money, but I know that ancestors are always watching, and it's my job to, you know, be a good person and also set a good example all the time, as much as I can, of what it's like to give.
Yes, it's super important. And I
see a question on here about ground cherries, and my husband said no ground cherries because we have a lot of invasive noxious weed issues we're dealing with on the farm because we've had a lot of drought. And he said no ground cherries this year. So I'm on restriction, but soon.
Well, thank you very much, Spring. I think we're about ready to need to wrap up. Bianca and Sherry are going to give me the high sign here in a minute.
Well, thank you for having me today. And I'm just so honored to work with Tiana and Chef Bucks First. It's an honor to listen to you both today, and I hope to meet you soon.
All three of you are just amazing women, just amazing. I'm so proud that you have agreed to present today. It's been amazing. I wanted to let people know about some AIANTA tools. You can go onto our website, and there's the case studies guidebook that will show you how to advance an agritourism business if you want to do that. NativeAmerica.travel, you can log onto that and get a listing for free, a listing of what you're doing, an experience, experience or just, you know, your business, and it's free. So I really recommend that you try that. And then Shop Native for agritourism people is also a free listing, and you can list, Spring can list her hot sauce. And it's just really, there are some options there. And if you don't know where to go, you can always call me or get online with me. I'm seeing all these things come up. Goats are the only animal that does that.
Yeah, I wrote back to that. We can't have goats. I used to be the chair of the county noxious weed board here, so I got the goat or the weed thing taken care of. We just handful everything. Can't have goats here. I have teenagers. I'm good. I don't need any more things right now.
Yeah.
Good.
I have house rabbits. I don't need goats. Here's the list of who, their emails in particular. And thank you very much to NAF, Native American Agriculture Fund. They fund the program that brought this website or this webinar to you. And Bianca, do we have one more slide, or is this the end?
This is it. Thank you.
Okay, so everybody take a look. Thank you, ladies, so much. What you are doing and what you have said is just unbelievable. I am so pleased with, I just cannot believe how much work you do. And it's amazing. So thank you, Spring, Tiana, and Chef Walks First. I follow them on their Facebook pages, look at them. They will inspire you too. I really appreciate it. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for providing this platform for us to speak about our work. So come visit and donate.
Yeah, donate, always donate to all three of them. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.